Good evening, and ho ho ho, Mr. Bond fans. I absolutely adore this time of year where we gather together with friends and family to celebrate the coming of our favourite Christmas icon. I'm a huge fan of traditions, you know, the food, the decorations, the seemingly endless conversation about whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And that got me thinking, I love seemingly endless conversations, how can I apply this to Bond? Even more than I already do. I'm willing to bet that most of us probably enjoy a festive Bond film regardless, but do any of them technically qualify as Christmas movies? Now, the exact technicalities of what constitutes a Christmas film can vary from person to person. I mean, there are people out there who don't think Die Hard counts as a Christmas film, and if you want to know more about that, then open up any social media app from December 1st to the 25th, and you'll see more opinions on that topic than you ever thought was possible to hold, but it does go to show that there is no foolproof definition to adhere to. I will, however, be sticking to one specific rule throughout this video, that the film needs to at least mention Christmas, and weirdly enough, that happens quite a bit in Bond films. It's kind of surprising. So we'll be running through every mention of Christmas in the Bond series, and then taking a look at other elements in the films individually to see if they can be counted as Christmas movies. I'm going to start by covering a couple of the more obvious examples, starting with the, I think, de facto Bond Christmas movie, On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Merry Christmas, 007.
Yes, adhering to the Ian Fleming novel quite a bit and setting much of its adventure during the festive season, George Lazenby's one and only Bond jaunt certainly serves as a Christmas film. Sadly, we don't get Bond settling down for a Christmas dinner with M like we do in the book, but we get trees and presents galore. In many ways, James Bond is like a cipher for Santa Claus. I mean, both men like a tipple, both visit you in the middle of the night to empty their sack. It has all the iconography, plus a huge chunk of the running time is set in a snowy Switzerland. There are lots of winter activities going on, lots of big coats, all the aesthetics are there. There's even an original Christmas song in it. Do you know how Christmas trees are grown?
Do you know how Christmas trees are grown?
It's no Jingle Bell Rock, but hey, it's a Christmas song. However, even on a thematic level, there's a lot going on here that aids the film's case for being a Christmas movie. I mean, is it even a festive film if it isn't tugging at the heartstrings in some way? And On Her Majesty's Secret Service presents one of the best love stories of the series, and one heck of an emotional ending, unless you prefer to keep Christmas upbeat and switch off about 5 minutes before the actual end. And they lived happily ever after. Who's for eggnog? On Her Majesty's Secret Service is certainly a Bond film with an official green Christmas bauble stamp of approval.
Do you know how Christmas trees are grown?
But in a series as long-lasting as Bond, you can bet it's not the only film to touch on Christmas, and The World Is Not Enough takes that quite literally.
I thought Christmas only comes once a year.
Okay, I'm willing to admit that attempting to anoint the third Pierce Brosnan film as a festive film might seem somewhat tenuous, but it's perhaps not as much of a stretch as you might think. Let's get the obvious out of the way first. Denise Richards plays a character literally named Christmas.
Miss?
Dr. Jones. Christmas Jones. And don't make any jokes, I've heard them all.
I don't know any doctor jokes.
But we can't go dishing out official green Christmas movie bauble stamps of approval by just a mere mention of the holiday, but upon closer inspection, The World Is Not Enough seemingly plays out during the festive season. In the first sequence of the film, Bond visits a bank in Spain. He is handed a piece of paper with the date November 15th, 1999 on it, and by the end of the film, Bond is enjoying fireworks with Christmas in Turkey, so presumably the film at least partially takes place in December. I mean, obviously the film was released just before the millennium, and I'm willing to punt that the fireworks are there to lean into New Year's vibes, unless the Christmas Istanbul fireworks display is an annual tradition that has passed me by, but Q has a line in the film which seems to indicate that it isn't really New Year's Eve yet.
Must be a premature form of the millennium bug.
And then we have Bond saying,
Always wanted to have Christmas in Turkey.
So I guess the finale of the film does indeed take place on Christmas Eve, at least. I mean, you'd think there'd be decorations around somewhere in the film. But technically it is still set at Christmas, and it does have a snowy scene for those wintry vibes, and much of it takes place in Turkey, get it? So for those reasons, and for having Bond literally shagging Christmas, I think The World Is Not Enough has to get a green bauble stamp of approval as a Christmas Bond film.
Do you know how Christmas trees are grown?
Those are definitely the two main Christmas Bond movies, but what about the movies where Christmas is just mentioned in passing? Could we make a case for those movies as being Christmas Bond films? Well, like I say, Christmas gets mentioned a surprising amount throughout the Bond series, so let's work our way through the chronology and have a bit of a quick-fire round, shall we? In From Russia With Love, we have Bond referring to his latest attaché case Q gadget as
That's a nasty little Christmas present.
But that's pretty much where it begins and ends for Christmas references, unless we're counting that Bond is once again in Turkey for much of the adventure. But with no wintry vibes or Christmas iconography in sight throughout From Russia With Love, it does not get the Christmas seal of approval and instead gets the dreaded red bauble.
Not exactly Christmas, is it?
Next up, we have Diamonds Are Forever, which again makes a Christmas reference in relation to one of Q's gadgets.
That ridiculous contraption actually seems to work, Q. You've surpassed yourself this time.
Not a bit of it. Made one of these for the kids last Christmas.
However, much like with From Russia With Love, any Christmas vibes are confined to that one line. No one seemed to tell the marketing people that, though.
Darling, for Christmas it's diamonds. Because diamonds are forever.
Sure enough, the film was released in December 1971, so I guess tying in with the holiday was thought of as being potentially lucrative in some way. I mean, nothing says festivities to me more than sending a man to his death in a boiling mud pool. Interestingly enough, a few years later, The Man with the Golden Gun did a similar sort of thing with its teaser trailer.
Darling, forget the jewels. Forget the trinkets. Forget the baubles. 'Cause guess who's coming for Christmas? It's a surprise. It's the man with the golden gun.
I can't imagine many films doing that now. I mean, sure, family films and musicals and what have you, but not spy thrillers where the lead character beds dozens of women and kills even more men. So despite the best efforts of the marketing people, both these films get the red bauble. Though the Diamonds teaser trailer can have all of the green baubles at once, I just love that we have a gun barrel where Bond has to throw away a bunch of presents to get his shot in.
Not exactly Christmas, is it?
Next is Moonraker, where once again we have a line referencing Christmas during a scene with Q. I'm jolly well starting to think that these films reuse ideas.
Causing death in 30 seconds.
Very novel, Q. We must get them in the stores for Christmas.
Good morning, gentlemen.
But despite that line, though, no other Christmassy vibes to speak of, unless all of the crass product placement throughout the film is some kind of subtle comment on the over-commercialization of the holiday. Oh, and the main Bond girl's called Holly. I might be stretching this a bit. So Moonraker gets another red bauble of Christmas disappointment.
Not exactly Christmas, is it?
Tootling along to the Timothy Dalton era now with one of my favourite Christmas references in the entire series.
What are you doing?
To take care of the supervisor. When Pete goes, his control panel will light up like Christmas tree.
Now, you might think that I'm stretching this quite a bit, but I'm actually going to make a case for The Living Daylights as being pretty darn close to fulfilling a festive vibe. Now, sure, a good chunk of the second half of the film takes place in Afghanistan, which is probably not as high on people's lists of where to go for an ideal Christmas destination. It's not up there with Lapland, I don't think. But for a lot of the first hour, we're seeing a lot of snow, we're in Bratislava, we're in Vienna, there's sledding, there's big coats, there's this guy who's just a bit of chin hair and a red hat away from looking like he belongs on the side of a Coca-Cola lorry. On the back of all this, I'm actually going to give The Living Daylights a festive seal of approval.
Do you know how Christmas trees are grown?
This certainly isn't as strong a bauble as it was for Majesty, Secret Service, or The World Is Not Enough, but I think Living Daylights does deserve to be on that second rung. Maybe it's a great Boxing Day film, then? Jumping ahead again now to the Craig era, where we amazingly have 4 films in a row that each contain a line of dialogue about Christmas, starting with Quantum of Solace's reference to M being the worst colleague to get a gift from in The Office Secret Santa.
I found this and 3 other bloody Christmas presents I bought him about the house.
I don't think he smoked.
Quantum is a very un-Christmassy film. Much of it takes place in hot climates, revenge is the main theme, and that's not necessarily a festive-y concept, so this gets a red bauble.
Not exactly Christmas, is it?
Skyfall next, which revives the apparently time-honoured tradition of having a Christmas reference in relation to Q.
A gun and a radio.
Not exactly Christmas, is it?
That's it for overt Christmas references, but God help me, I'm going to make a case for this, for the latter part of the film, at least, being quite Christmassy in its own little way, largely down to its cold, wintry setting and the fact that it plays out like the best Home Alone sequel ever, with Bond, M, and Kincaid booby-trapping the house to fend off invaders. Feeling old? Here's what Macaulay Culkin and Catherine O'Hara look like now. Similar to Daylights, this is another tenuous one, but I'm coming down on the side of giving it a green bauble, because so much of the second half has such a wintry vibe. there's Bond travelling home, returning to his roots like so many of us do at Christmas, is him forming a surrogate family almost with Em and Kincaid, and hey, Bond is in Turkey again. Yeah, this one's definitely going in the Christmas category.
Do you know how Christmas trees are grown?
Next up, it's Spectre, where, you guessed it, Christmas is referenced in a scene with Q as he details to Bond M's plans for Texas Chainsaw Massacre-inspired festive decor.
Why are you here, Q? Oh, I just fancied a break, to be honest. I've been a tad stressed at work recently. What with these people crawling all over us and the fact that Em wants my balls for Christmas decorations.
Get to the point.
Now, Spectre has a chunk of the film take place in a snowy setting, and similar to Skyfall, when it's in London, it has the same kind of wintry vibe to it. Lots of big coats and scarves on display, but the thing that is swinging the bauble green for me is that one of the big plot lines of this film is family conflict. What would Christmas be without rows about lumpy mashed potatoes, naff gifts, how your stepbrother murdered your adoptive father come ski instructor? It's plots like these that keep the Bond films relatable. Maybe the eggnog is going to my head, but I'm actually going to give Spectre a very light green bauble too.
Do you know how Christmas trees are grown?
And finally, we come to the latest Bond film, No Time to Die, where Christmas is mentioned, and for the third time in a row, it's in relation to Q.
Nanobots aren't just for Christmas.
Does Ben Whishaw have it in his contract that Christmas needs mentioning in every scene he's in if he comes back for one of these films? Is he actually a Christmas elf in disguise? I mean, that would certainly explain how he never seems to age. Unlike the previous two Craig entries, though, I don't get much else in the way of festive vibes. Obviously, there's a wintry setting at the start of the film, and Madeline's mum is spending her day much like I like to spend my ideal Christmas days, but that's kind of it, really. Sure, family is a big theme of the film, but I don't feel like it ever gets particularly festive. So that's a red bauble for No Time to Die.
Not exactly Christmas, is it?
While I've given out a few green baubles here, I think that On Her Majesty's Secret Service certainly stands as the de facto Bond Christmas film, with The World's Not Enough in a second place. But what about Bond films that don't even mention Christmas? I'm sure that to some people something like For Your Eyes Only, with all of its snow-set sequences, could be considered a festive film. I definitely can't speak for the rest of the world, obviously, but here in the UK, the Bond films are something of a staple of bank holiday television, and that includes Christmas, and often it'll be one of the latest installments that gets played on one of the main channels over the festive period, and if you were someone who discovered Bond on one of those days, I can totally understand why that film would have constant reverence to you as a Christmas favourite. Do let me know in the comments section below if there are any Bond films that we haven't talked about here that are festive go-tos for you and or your family during the holiday season. Also, let me know if there are any instances of Christmas in Bond films that I've missed. I have to give a shout out to the good people of Bond Twitter who, when I was compiling this list of, all the films that mention Christmas, I put it out to the good people on Bond Twitter to kind of ask for some assistance when it comes to compiling all this, and got some wonderful replies and conversations about that, so yeah, thank you very much. There ended up being so many more than I thought that there would be. Also, a huge thanks and shout out to the incredible work of Sean Longmore here, this countdown to Christmas poster that he made last year, and I badgered him about making prints because I saw it on his Instagram and I was like, I absolutely need that. So it's come out for Christmas, it's gonna come out for Christmas every year. I absolutely love this print, and yeah, if you watch this channel at all, you're gonna be well aware of Sean's work. It's often behind me in videos at my desk and whatnot, so thanks Sean, still love it. And finally, if you've enjoyed this video, please do consider scrolling below and hitting the like button. You can also subscribe to this channel if you want to stay up to date on future video uploads, and you can even click the Mrs. Bell notification button if you want to stay super up to date on future video uploads. And then also below there are links to my social media pages, including my Facebook page, Twitter page, Instagram page, and Patreon page, for those of you who want to go one extra step in supporting this channel and have votes on what non-Bond movies I'm going to cover on this channel and whatnot, so do head over to that site for more details there. And finally, I just hope you have a very happy Christmas, a wonderful new year. Please enjoy the festivities, stay safe, and yeah, see you on the other side, Bond fans. So long for now.